how do you go from struggling, trying to make ends meet, and to, well, you know, in my story, going from being struggling, trying to make ends meet to becoming a millionaire. But even if you're not a millionaire, 100,000 there, like you're just, maybe, you know, you're working a $50,000 job, which is good money, you know, it's decent money, but you're still living check to check and you're still quote unquote struggling. I think the key is to understand how money and business works. And I think a lot of people overlook the big picture of how money and business works. So what I mean by that is most people are like, okay, I want to make more money. What's the first thing they think about? Traditionally is getting a second job. Well, you can tell that person doesn't really understand how money and business work, or should I say the principles of wealth, because they just sacrifice one of the main principles, which is they have no leverage, right? And what I mean by no leverage is if you go get a second job, you are trading more time for hours. Well, how do you ever get ahead? Because there's only 24 hours in the day. So right off the bat, you're capped at 24. That's assuming you don't need to sleep, you don't need to take bathroom breaks, you don't need to take a lunch break, etc. So even if you could be a robot and work and you got paid by the hour, you're already capped at 24 hours in the day. So when you look at your lifestyle, because this was an analysis I did back when I had like a lot of debt, I was like, okay, so if I don't take any risks, I just work my job, pay off, I think I had something like $60,000 debt, student loans, some other stuff over time, tax lien, all that stuff. It was about 60, maybe 80,000, something around 60 to 80,000. So I said, okay, in my working my job, first thing I did was I built my lifestyle off the hourly, and I took the commission, and I had two choices I could do with the commission. And this is for anybody that's struggling. One thing I could do with the commission was I could pay down my $60,000 to $80,000 worth of debt, right? But I did the math. If I took all of my commission checks, about $2,000, and I put all my commission check towards my debt, after 12 months, it'd be $24,000 down, right? So automatically, I knew if I stayed on that plan, it's like, man, it's gonna take me 3 to 4 years to get out of debt. That's if I don't party, rack up nothing else on the credit card, no interest, I don't get laid off. I mean, hopefully my commission check don't dip below 2,000. So I already am looking at that plan and I'm like, okay, that just gets me to even. Because we're talking about how do we get ahead. That plan just gets me to even, gets me out of debt. So I'm like, I can't do nothing exciting for the next 3 to 4 years. And at that point, it just gets me to even. So I start asking myself, and what most people should do is like, how do I increase my earnings? How do I speed up the process is really the question, right? So one way, get a second job, but that's not really speeding up the process because now you're making less than the first job. The first job you had an extra $2,000, you get a second job, what you gonna have extra $200, $300? So that's gonna take more time, I'm tired, that's not really gonna get me ahead. So I started looking at the stock market and saying, okay, I can still work my job, but now I can create a second employee by having my money work for me in the stock market. So I'm trying to give you the principle, which is how can you get something going and working that's not constrained by time and that's not constrained by you? That's the first thing. How can I get something else going, not constrained by time and not dependent or constrained by me? That is how you start to get ahead. Because if two of us can make $2,000 a month, right, extra, like I'm making $2,000 extra, and if my money's making $2,000 extra, then boom, we just cut the time down in half from 3 to 4 years. We just cut it down to a year and a half. Now I can start to see light at the end of the tunnel if I think about that. But it's not until you start thinking about like that you say, okay, now what are the things I can get involved in that can make money independently of me? Some people turn to network marketing, right? Start recruiting people, try to build a business, start building a team. Some people like me turn to the stock market, like how do I find out how to make my money work for me? Those are things you can think about. Now, if you can't figure out how to have your money work hard for you, or something that can make money independently of you, also independently of time, the next best thing that, for me, instead of thinking about taking a second job, I would think about how can I do something that even if I worked it like a second job, it would pay me like a full-time job. So what do I mean by that? You know, if you work your job, you make whatever you make times whatever hours. But let's just say real estate. You get your real estate sales license. You could sell a house in one weekend and make $2,000 that weekend. You know, after you closing costs and they cut you your commission, all that. But yes, you're driving around showing houses, but let's say you could close a house every weekend, $2,000, a $200,000 house or so, depending on your commission, 3% split with your broker, all that stuff. Let's say you can close one of those every weekend. Well, you got your $50,000 job, an hour full-time job, but maybe you're making, you know, $2,000 a weekend or $8,000 at the end of the month from your part-time thing. So I'm working it part-time, but I'm making full-time money. See, most people go get a part-time job and make less money than they make working their full-time job. That's backwards. If I'm gonna go put my time in part-time, I need this thing to be able to produce equivalent or above what I get paid on my full-time job, right? So that's how you start to think and get out of, quote unquote, the rat race, or how do you get ahead? Because now, if real estate is bringing in $2,000 a week, now I gotta be hustling and selling. I'm not saying you just go wake up and like, I'm a real estate agent, I'm making $8,000 a month. But let me put it like this. If you have 4 closings in real estate, assuming you can sell $200,000 houses, you can sell about 4 houses, you make about $8,000, assuming the commission, everything break down, right? But on my job, where I'm making an extra $2,000 a month from my commission, it would take me 4 months to get $8,000. So that's why it's important to be in a vehicle or in a machine that can compress the time frame. So that vehicle, that machine can speed up what it would take me 4 months on my job to raise the extra $2,000 at $8,000 total. Real estate, selling real estate, for example, could speed it up and bring it to me in 1 month. Now, if real estate can bring that to you in 1 month, now you can put $8,000 into the stock market and steamroll that money. So again, we're still paying maybe the minimum or whatever we got to do on our credit cards, but we take that $8,000 instead of dumping it on that. Well, you could dump it on that. That would speed it up, get you out of debt. Or you can now put it in another machine, right? So the real estate machine, just as an example, or any type of outside commission sales part-time, that's still dependent upon you and your time, but at least you can get paid more for your time. You still got the ultimate goal is to get to the machine that can work independently of you, and that's the stock market. And it could also be flipping houses though too. I mean, it don't necessarily be the stock market. Maybe you take the $8,000 from commission, use that as a down payment on your first flip house. You hire some contractors to fix it up. You're taking your $2,000 commission from your job, paying the contractors that are working there fixing it up. So while you're at work, they over there working on the house fixing it up. From the commission from your job is paying them, but your commission from being a real estate salesperson may have been what you used to get the money for the down payment on the flip house. Now, if you can flip that house and make $20,000, $30,000 on the flip, you see how quickly you can pay off your $60,000 debt and start to get ahead. And most people don't think like that. And so, unfortunately, what happens with most people when they don't think like that, they get discouraged. They say, well, I'm gonna live like this forever. This gonna take forever to pay off. And I understand where they get the term forever from. Why? Because it feels like forever if the only way that you can get paid is by working, and you already did the math and it was like $2,000 after taxes, maybe I only get $1,500, and by the time I do this, it's gonna take forever to pay off. But I also think that's still a crucial mistake that most people make, is I've never seen forever as a date on the calendar. Because I just showed you that even if you don't do all the other stuff we talked about, but you just put the pen and paper and do the math, forever is really like 4 years. You know what I'm saying? And so because most people don't do the math on what it's gonna take during the slow route, so you have at least a slow for sure game plan. And if you do the math, you're like, okay, I can see the end in sight. 4 years, 5 years. But when you get that number, now you can start to say, how do I speed it up? And I think that's where the magic happens. When you start to say, here's my slow number, how can I speed it up? What can I do? What can I learn? And some people are like, well, it's gonna take forever to learn that. No, it's not. It might take you 6 months to learn real estate. If it takes you 6 months to learn real estate, but it could potentially bring you in $8,000 a month in month 7, was it worth it? By month 7, it's already caught up to the $2,000 you bringing in from your job. So by month 8 or 9 to 10, it's eclipsed the little commission you make at work or your paycheck, right? So people don't really think about life like that. They just think about what it takes, and that's gonna take too long. But they don't really think about the exponential growth that can happen in month 7, month 8, month 9. Like, it's gonna take 6 months to learn the stock market. But yeah, but what if I told you in month 8, 9, and 10, you was gonna make $5,000 in month 8, $7,000 in month 9, and $10,000 in month 10? That's $22,000. Would it have been worth the 6 months of learning the skill? And most people we live in that microwave society where it's like, well, that's gonna take too long, or it's gonna take forever to learn that. But forever has never really been a date on the calendar. And we only say forever because we never really wrote down the numbers and said, how long is this really gonna take? And then what's possible once we finally get there. So I think more people need to put pen to paper, run their numbers, and confront their financial situation instead of running from it and say, this is how much I'm in debt, this is how much I'm getting charged interest every month, because that's also important to know how much is your debt growing every single month that you're making payments on. Like, how much is actually going to knocking down the principal and knocking down that debt? I don't think a lot of people are thinking like that. And so when you know your numbers, everything else is a mathematical equation. If I continue on this route, it's gonna happen on this date. If I add something that can make me money, I'm gonna be out of this situation on this date. Oh, I gotta factor in the fact that it'll take me 6 months to learn it. Okay, 6 months to learn it. Boom, I should be good by this month. It's gonna take exactly 1 year, and I should be good on this date. Once you know that math, I think you can pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and you can go after the life you want. You can get out of debt. You can change your situation. You can get ahead because you know exactly what it's gonna take. You know what's gonna happen if you take the slow route. And then you also know what's gonna happen if you take the fast route, but then you reverse engineer it, and you can start taking the courses, learning the stuff, learning the things that you need to do to speed it up. So just take action. Just take action, but know your goal, know your plan, know your numbers. That's how people can get out of debt or get out of their situation and get to a better financial place.